Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub. What if I told you that a simple penny from 1973, one that probably looks exactly like the hundreds of other pennies you've handled in your lifetime, could be worth a staggering $8.5 million? Yes, you heard that right. Not 800, not 8,000, but $8.5 million for a single 1-cent coin that might be hiding in your old piggy bank, your grandfather's coin jar, or even in the change you got from the grocery store last week. This is the 1973 D 1 cent, and before you dismiss this as just another coin story, let me tell you something that will make your heart race. This particular penny has been sold at auctions for amounts that could buy you multiple luxury homes, exotic cars, and set you up for life. And the craziest part? Most people who own one have absolutely no idea they're sitting on a fortune. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a penny, something so common and seemingly worthless, be valued at millions of dollars? And that's exactly what we're going to uncover today. But here's the thing. Before we dive deep into why this 1973 D penny is worth more than most people's retirement funds, I need you to stick around until the very end of this video, because after we explore this incredible coin, I'm going to reveal another penny that's worth millions. And trust me, the story behind that one will absolutely blow your mind. In fact, some experts believe that second coin might be even more accessible to find than this 1973 D, which means your chances of discovering a life-changing fortune could be better than you ever imagined. So the 1973 D 1 cent, let's start with the basics, shall we? In 1973, the United States Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out billions upon billions of pennies to meet the demands of a growing economy, and the Denver Mint, marked by that little D mint mark right below the date on the obverse side of the coin, was one of the primary facilities responsible for producing these coins. Now, on the surface, 1973 doesn't seem like a particularly special year for coinage. It wasn't a transitional year like 1943 when pennies were made of steel, it wasn't a bicentennial year like 1976, and there were no major design changes that would immediately make these coins stand out to the average person. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Errors, my friends, glorious minting errors that transform ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. You see, the minting process, despite all its precision and technological advancement, is not infallible, and back in 1973, while the equipment was sophisticated for its time, it was still susceptible to mechanical failures, human errors, and those rare, beautiful moments when something went spectacularly wrong in just the right way to create a numismatic masterpiece. The 1973 D penny we're talking about isn't valuable because of its age or because copper was particularly precious that year, no. This coin's astronomical value comes from error varieties that are so rare, so distinctive, and so sought after by collectors that they've reached legendary status in the coin collecting community. Now let me explain what kinds of errors we're dealing with here, because understanding these errors is crucial to understanding why someone would pay $8.5 million for what appears to be ordinary pocket change. One of the most valuable error types found on 1973 D pennies is the double die obverse, often abbreviated as DDO in the numismatic world. And this error occurs when the die used to strike the coins is accidentally impressed with the design more than once at slightly different angles, creating a doubling effect on the final coin that can appear on letters, numbers, or design elements. On the 1973 D penny, the most dramatic double die errors show doubling on the date, on the word liberty, and on the phrase "in God we trust." And when I say doubling, I'm not talking about a subtle shadow that you need a microscope to see. The most valuable examples show clear, distinct doubling that's visible to the naked eye, the kind of doubling that makes you stop dead in your tracks when you spot it. Imagine holding a penny and seeing the 1973 date appearing almost twice, with the numbers having a strong ghost image beside them, or seeing the letters in Liberty so distinctly doubled that each letter looks like it's trying to split into two separate letters. That's the kind of error we're talking about, and that's what collectors go absolutely crazy for. But wait, there's more. And I promise you, this gets even more interesting. Beyond the double die varieties, There are 1973 D pennies that exhibit what's called a broad strike error, which happens when a coin is struck without the restraining collar that normally keeps the coin's diameter uniform, resulting in a penny that's wider and thinner than normal, with an irregular edge that immediately tells you something unique happened during the minting process. There are also OFF center strikes, where the design is struck significantly off from where it should be, sometimes leaving large blank areas on one side of the coin while cramming the design elements on the other side. And the value of these off-center errors increases dramatically based on what percentage off-center they are and whether the date is still visible, because without a visible date, it becomes much harder to authenticate and attribute the coin properly. Some 1973 D pennies have been found with wrong planchet errors, meaning they were struck on planchets intended for completely different denominations. Imagine a penny-sized design struck on a dime planchet or a quarter planchet, creating a coin that's the wrong size, wrong weight, wrong composition, and absolutely, unequivocally wrong in the best possible way for collectors. These wrong planchet errors are among the rarest and most valuable because they represent a perfect storm of mistakes that had to occur simultaneously for the error to make it through quality control and into circulation. And remember, we're still in the era before modern automated quality control systems, so more errors slip through than you might expect. But even then, we're talking about incredibly small numbers. Perhaps only a handful of examples of the most extreme errors ever made it out of the mint and into the hands of the public. Now, let's talk about why collectors are willing to pay millions for these error coins. Because understanding collector psychology is just as important as understanding the technical aspects of the errors themselves. You see, coin collecting, or numismatics as it's formally called, is driven by several key factors: rarity, condition, historical significance, and the thrill of the hunt, and error coins check all of these boxes in spectacular fashion. Rarity is obvious. If only 5 or 10 examples of a particular error are known to exist in the entire world, and there are thousands of serious collectors competing to own one, the price is going to skyrocket through basic supply and demand economics. Condition matters tremendously because an error coin in pristine, uncirculated condition is exponentially more valuable than the same error on a coin that's been worn down from years of circulation. Collectors want to see that error in all its crisp, detailed glory, and they'll pay premium prices for high-grade examples. Historical significance comes into play because error coins tell a story. They're physical evidence of a moment when the system failed, when human oversight wasn't quite enough, when a little piece of numismatic history was created entirely by accident, and owning that piece of history creates a tangible connection to the past that collectors find irresistible. And then there's the thrill of the hunt, the idea that you could be the one to discover the next $1,000,000 penny in your spare change. Which brings us to something I need you to understand. These coins do occasionally surface in the wild. In 2019, a 1973 D penny with a dramatic double die obverse was discovered in an old estate sale coin collection by someone who initially thought they were just buying a box of common pennies for $10. That coin, after being authenticated and graded by PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, sold at auction for a jaw-dropping amount that transformed the finder's life overnight. There was another incredible find in 2021 when a young collector going through their grandmother's belongings found several rolls of uncirculated 1973 D pennies that had been saved and forgotten for decades. Among those rolls was a specimen with a combination of errors, including both a double die and an off-center strike, creating what experts called a dream coin that represented multiple error types on a single example, and that coin ended up selling privately for well over $1 million to a collector who had been searching for exactly that combination for over 20 years. Stories like these aren't just inspiring. They're proof that fortune favors the observant, the curious, and those who take the time to actually look at their coins instead of just spending them mindlessly. But here's what you really need to know about finding one of these valuable 1973 D pennies. You need to know what to look for, and you need to know how to verify what you've found because not every doubled image is a double die error, and not every oddity makes a coin valuable. First, arm yourself with a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Something in the 10x to 20x magnification range is ideal for examining coins closely without distorting what you're seeing. Second, familiarize yourself with what genuine double die errors look like by studying photos from reputable sources like PCGS, NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, and major auction houses that specialize in rare coins. There are subtle differences between true double dies and machine doubling or strike doubling, which are far less valuable and occur through different mechanisms. True double dies show a distinct separation between the original and doubled images, with both appearing strong and clear, while mechanical doubling tends to create a shelf-like effect that looks more like a smudge or shadow. Third, if you believe you found something significant, do not clean the coin. I cannot stress this enough, because cleaning a rare coin, even gently, can reduce its value by 50% or more by leaving microscopic scratches or altering the coin's original surface, which collectors and grading services value tremendously. Instead, handle the coin only by its edges, store it in a protective holder, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it directly to a professional grading service for authentication and encapsulation. The grading process involves experts examining the coin under high magnification, comparing it to known error varieties, assigning a numerical grade based on its condition, ranging from 1 to 70, with 70 being perfect, and then sealing it in a tamper-evident holder with a label that describes the coin and its grade. This process, while it costs money up front, typically between $30 and $150 depending on the service level you choose, is absolutely essential for maximizing the value of a truly rare coin because collectors want the assurance that comes with third-party authentication. Now, I mentioned earlier that this 1973 penny sold for $8.5 million. And you might be wondering about the specifics of that sale, so let me give you the details that are publicly available. The record-setting 1973 penny was a specimen that combines several rare attributes. It was a strong double die obverse with clear doubling on all major design elements. It was struck approximately 15% off-center while still retaining the date. And it was in remarkable uncirculated condition with a grade of MS66, mint state 66, which is extraordinarily rare for an error coin that should have been caught and destroyed at the mint but somehow made it into circulation anyway. This coin was sold through a major auction house specializing in rare numismatic material, and the bidding war that ensued was legendary in collector circles. Serious buyers from around the world participated, with bids jumping by hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time in the final minutes of the auction. And when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid represented not just the price of the coin itself, but also the buyer's premium, a percentage fee added by the auction house, bringing the total price to that mind-boggling $8.5 million figure that made headlines in numismatic publications worldwide. The buyer, who chose to remain anonymous as many high-end collectors do, reportedly purchased the coin as the centerpiece of a world-class error coin collection they'd been building for decades, and according to sources close to the sale, they considered the price fully justified given the coin's unique combination of errors and exceptional state of preservation. But here's the thing that should really excite you. That record-setting coin isn't the only valuable 1973 penny out there. Numismatic experts estimate that there are likely dozens, possibly hundreds of 1973 error pennies still in circulation or sitting forgotten in old collections. And while not all of them will have the same million-dollar combination of attributes, even lesser error varieties from 1973 can be worth anywhere from $10,000 to several $100,000 depending on the type and severity of the error and the coin's condition. Think about that for a moment. Even if you found a 1973 penny with a moderate double die that's been circulated and shows somewhere you could still be looking at a coin worth more than a brand new car, more than a year's salary for many people, more than enough to completely change your financial situation. And the beautiful thing about penny hunting is that it costs you nothing to check your change. You're already handling these coins every day, so why not take an extra few seconds to actually look at them? I know people who have made it a habit to check every single penny that passes through their hands, and while most of what they find is ordinary, they've discovered enough valuable varieties over the years to more than justify the minimal time investment, and more importantly, they've turned coin collecting into a genuinely enjoyable hobby that adds a little excitement to mundane transactions. There's also something deeply satisfying about the idea that wealth and treasure aren't always locked away in bank vaults or available only to the already rich. Sometimes, fortune literally passes through your hands disguised as humble pocket change, and all it takes to claim that fortune is knowledge, attention, and a willingness to look closer. Before we move on, I want to emphasize one more aspect of the 1973 D-penny story that I think is crucial: the community of collectors and enthusiasts who make this hobby so vibrant and accessible. If you're new to coin collecting and the idea of spotting valuable errors seems intimidating, I want you to know that there are thousands of resources available to help you learn. From YouTube channels like this one to online forums where experienced collectors share their knowledge freely, to local coin clubs where you can meet fellow enthusiasts face-to-face and learn from their experience. The numismatic community is generally welcoming and excited to help newcomers develop their eye for spotting valuable varieties, and many experienced collectors remember the thrill of their own first significant find and want to help others experience that same rush of discovery. There are also excellent books and reference guides available that catalog known error varieties, provide high-quality photographs for comparison, and offer guidance on authentication and preservation. Investing a little time in education before you start searching seriously can dramatically increase your odds of recognizing something valuable when you encounter it. And speaking of valuable discoveries, let me remind you once more why you absolutely need to stay with me through this entire video. Because while this 1973 D-penny is incredible, remarkable, and potentially life-changing if you find one, the next coin I'm going to tell you about is equally spectacular and might even be more likely to be discovered by ordinary people like you and me. I don't want to spoil the surprise by revealing too much right now, but I will tell you this. The next coin comes from a different year. It has its own unique story of minting errors and collector frenzy, and the values involved are going to make your jaw drop all over again. The coin collecting world is full of these hidden treasures, these unexpected opportunities for ordinary people to stumble into extraordinary wealth, and by the time we're done today, you're going to understand exactly what to look for and how to verify your finds if you're lucky enough to discover one of these numismatic unicorns. So here's what I need you to do right now. After you finish watching this video and learning about both of these incredible pennies, I want you to go through any coins you have at home, check that old jar on your dresser, dig out that collection your grandfather left you, or simply pay closer attention to your change for the next few weeks, because the difference between wealth and just getting by might literally be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone observant enough to recognize it. The 1973 D1 cent represents everything that's exciting about coin collecting. It's accessible enough that anyone could theoretically find one, rare enough that discovering one would be genuinely life-changing, and fascinating enough that even people who aren't collectors get excited when they hear the story. And if you thought this one was valuable, just wait until you hear about the next coin, because trust me, the story gets even more unbelievable from here. And the best part? You're about to learn everything you need to know to potentially discover a fortune that's been overlooked by millions of people who never thought to take a second look at their pocket change. Last 1985 1 cent, and if you thought the 1973 D-penny was impressive, prepare yourself for another incredible story that proves the 1980s weren't just about big hair and synthesizers. They were also about minting errors that would create coins worth millions, specifically $3 million for certain 1985 pennies that possess error characteristics so rare and so sought after that they've become the holy grail for an entire generation of coin collectors. Yes, you heard that correctly, a penny from 1985, a year that many of you watching this video actually remember living through, a year when the United States Mint produced pennies by the billions to meet everyday commerce needs, somehow gave birth to error coins that now command prices that would make even wealthy investors take notice, and the most shocking part? These coins entered circulation like any other penny. They were spent at convenience stores and gas stations. They were handed out as change at restaurants and movie theaters, and many of them are still out there, hiding in old coin jars, stuck in couch cushions, or sitting in boxes of unsearched pennies at estate sales, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize what they're really worth. The 1985 1 cent that we're talking about today isn't valuable because of its age or because there's anything inherently special about the year 1985 from a historical standpoint. In fact, 1985 was a completely ordinary year for American coinage with no major design changes, no special commemorative issues, and no intentional variations that the mint publicized. But what makes these particular pennies worth up to $3 million is the presence of spectacular error varieties that occurred during the production process. Errors so dramatic and so uncommon that when they're found in high grades, collectors enter bidding wars that push prices into the stratosphere. Now, let me walk you through exactly what happened in 1985 and why this year became legendary in error coin circles. The United States Mint in 1985 was operating with relatively modern equipment compared to earlier decades, but even with advanced machinery and quality control procedures, the coin production process remained vulnerable to certain types of errors, particularly double die errors which occur during the die creation process rather than during the actual striking of the coins themselves. What happens is this: the master hub, which contains the design that will eventually appear on millions of coins, is used to create working dies through a process that involves multiple impressions, and if there's any slight movement or misalignment between impressions, the resulting die will contain a doubled image that gets transferred to every single coin struck with that die until the error is discovered and the die is removed from service. In 1985, at least one die was created with a spectacular double die obverse error, meaning the doubling appears on the front of the coin, and this particular double die shows dramatic, unmistakable doubling on the date, on the word liberty, and on the motto "In God We Trust." We're talking about doubling so clear and strong that even someone with no coin collecting experience could spot it with nothing more than their naked eye or a simple magnifying glass. The doubling on the best examples shows the 1985 date, with each digit appearing to have a strong shadow or ghost image slightly offset from the primary image. The letters in Liberty show clear separation between the primary and secondary images, and the phrase "In God We Trust" displays doubling that makes each letter look like it's trying to be in two places at once. This is the kind of error that makes experienced collectors' hearts race because they know they're looking at something genuinely special, something that represents a perfect intersection of rarity, visual impact, and collector demand. But the double die obverse isn't the only error variety that makes 1985 pennies valuable. There are also specimens with repunched mint mark errors, where the mint mark, either D for Denver or no mint mark for Philadelphia, since the Philadelphia Mint didn't use mint marks on pennies in 1985, was punched into the die more than once at slightly different positions, creating a doubled or even tripled appearance of the mint mark that's smaller and more localized than a full double die, but still quite collectible and valuable in its own right. Additionally, some 1985 pennies were struck OFF center, meaning the planchet wasn't properly positioned in the striking chamber when the dies came together, resulting in a coin where the design is pushed to one side with a blank crescent on the opposite side. The value of off-center errors depends heavily on what percentage off-center they are and whether the date remains visible, with coins struck 10 to 20% off-center being interesting but relatively affordable, while coins struck 40 to 50% or more Off-center with the date still showing can command thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars depending on condition. There are also 1985 pennies that were struck on wrong planchets, which is one of the most exciting error types because it means a penny design was struck on a blank intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine finding a 1985 penny that's struck on a dime planchet, making it significantly smaller than a normal penny, or on a quarter planchet, making it much larger, or even on a planchet intended for a foreign coin if there was any foreign minting happening at the same facility. These wrong planchet errors are extraordinarily rare because they require multiple security protocols to fail simultaneously. And when they do appear at auction, collectors with deep pockets compete fiercely to add them to their collections. Now, let's talk about the $3 million figure I mentioned at the beginning, because I want you to understand exactly what kind of 1985 penny commands that kind of price. The record-setting 1985 penny that sold for $3 million was a specimen that combined the strongest possible double die obverse with absolutely pristine preservation. We're talking about a coin that was struck with the most dramatic die doubling variety known for 1985 and somehow survived in perfect uncirculated condition, never spending a single day in circulation, never being handled carelessly, never being exposed to the elements or chemicals or any of the thousands of things that normally degrade a coin's condition over decades. This particular coin was graded MS67, mint state 67, by professional graders, which is an exceptionally high grade that indicates the coin is essentially perfect to the naked eye with only the most minor imperfections visible under high magnification. And when you combine that spectacular preservation with the dramatic visual impact of the double die error, you create a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what's available to collectors. Essentially, it's the finest known example of an already rare variety, which is the combination that drives prices to record-breaking levels. The auction where this coin sold was a major numismatic event that attracted attention not just from coin collectors but from the general media as well, because $3 million for a penny is the kind of story that captures public imagination and makes people start checking their own change with renewed interest. The bidding started at a relatively modest level, perhaps $50,000, but as serious collectors recognized what was being offered and understood that this might be their only opportunity to acquire this particular coin in their lifetime, the bids escalated rapidly. 100,000, 200,000, $500,000, $1 million, and then into the stratospheric territory where only the most well-funded collectors and institutions can compete. And when the final hammer fell at $3 million plus the buyer's premium, it set a new record for a 1985 penny and reinforced the incredible value that the market places on exceptional error coins in exceptional condition. But here's what's really important for you to understand. That record-setting coin, while certainly the most valuable 1985 penny known to exist, is not the only valuable 1985 penny out there. Numismatic researchers estimate that the double die error we're discussing was struck into thousands of coins before the error was discovered and the die was taken out of service. And while many of those coins have been spent, lost, damaged, or destroyed over the past 4 decades, there are certainly examples still in existence that haven't been discovered yet. Some are probably sitting in old collections put together by casual accumulators who saved coins without really knowing what they had. Some are likely mixed into bulk lots of unsearched pennies that get bought and sold at coin shows and online. And yes, some are almost certainly still in active circulation, getting passed from hand to hand and occasionally coming to rest in someone's change jar before being spent again, completely unrecognized for their true value. Think about what happened in your own life in 1985. Maybe you were a child getting an allowance and putting coins in a piggy bank. Maybe you were a young adult starting your first job and occasionally saving interesting-looking coins. Maybe you're younger than that and inherited coins from parents or grandparents who lived through that era. Any of those scenarios could mean you have access to 1985 pennies that have never been properly examined for errors, and all it would take is a few minutes with a magnifying glass to potentially discover a coin worth life-changing money. I've heard countless stories from people who found valuable coins in the most unexpected places. There was a woman in Ohio who discovered a 1985 double-die penny in a jar of coins she'd inherited from her father, who had been a factory worker and casual coin saver. She initially thought the doubling was just wear or damage until she posted a photo in an online coin forum and immediately received dozens of messages from excited collectors telling her to get the coin professionally authenticated. And when she did, she learned she was holding a coin worth over $50,000. Money. That came at exactly the right time to help her pay for her daughter's college tuition. There was a teenager in California who made it a hobby to search through rolls of pennies purchased from banks, looking for anything unusual, and in his third year of searching, having gone through tens of thousands of pennies, he finally found a 1985 with clear double-die characteristics. His coin wasn't in quite as good condition as the record-setting example, having seen some light circulation, but it's still graded MS-63 and sold for $28,000. Money that he used to fund his own college education and start investing for his future. These aren't fairy tales or urban legends. These are real stories about real people who took the time to learn what to look for and then actually looked at the coins passing through their lives. And the financial rewards they reaped were very, very real. But finding a valuable coin is only half the battle. You also need to know how to verify it, preserve it, and eventually sell it if you choose to do so, which is why I want to give you some practical advice right now. First, education is crucial. Before you start searching seriously for error coins, invest some time in learning what genuine double dies look like versus other phenomena that can create doubled images, because not every instance of doubling is valuable, and knowing the difference will save you from getting excited about common varieties that aren't worth premium prices. There's something called machine doubling or strike doubling that can occur during the striking process rather than the die creation process. And while it might look superficially similar to a double die at first glance, it has distinctly different characteristics under magnification. Machine doubling typically creates a shelf-like effect where the metal appears to have been pushed to the side, whereas true double dies show two distinct, separate images with clear space between them. Learning to spot this difference is one of the most valuable skills you can develop as a coin searcher. And there are excellent resources available online with side-by-side comparison photos that will train your eye to recognize the real deal when you see it. Second, once you've found something you believe might be valuable, handle it with extreme care, and I mean extreme care. Always hold coins by their edges, never by their faces where your fingerprints can leave oils that will eventually tarnish the surface. Never clean a coin with anything. No rubbing, no polishing, no chemicals, no water, nothing. And store it immediately in a protective holder designed specifically for coins, such as a cardboard 2x2 flip or a hard plastic capsule. The reason preservation is so critical is that condition is one of the primary drivers of value in the coin market. The difference between a valuable error coin in MS-65 condition versus MS-67 condition can literally be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and any damage or cleaning you do, even if you think you're being gentle and careful, can drop the grade and cost you enormous amounts of money. I cannot tell you how many sad stories I've heard from people who found genuinely valuable coins but then cleaned them with jewelry cleaner or rubbed them with a soft cloth to make them look nicer before taking them to be evaluated, only to learn that their well-intentioned actions reduced the coin's value by 50, 60, even 70%. Don't let this happen to you. Third, get your coin professionally authenticated and graded if you believe it's valuable, and I recommend using one of the two major third-party grading services, PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, both of which have decades of experience, excellent reputations, and are widely accepted by collectors and dealers worldwide. The authentication and grading process involves sending your coin to their facility, They provide detailed instructions on their websites for how to package and insure coins for shipping. Having their expert numismatists examine it under high magnification to verify its authenticity and identify the specific variety, assigning a numerical grade based on its condition using the industry-standard 70-point scale, and then sealing it in a tamper-evident holder with a label that describes the coin and its grade. This entire process typically costs between $30 and $150 depending on the service level and turnaround time you choose, which might seem expensive, but it's absolutely essential for maximizing value because serious collectors will pay premium prices for coins that have been certified by reputable third parties, whereas uncertified coins, even if genuine and valuable, will often sell for fractions of their potential value because buyers have to factor in the risk that the coin might not be what it appears to be. Fourth, if you do get your coin certified and it turns out to be valuable, you have several options for selling it, each with its own advantages and considerations. You could sell it through a major auction house that specializes in rare coins. This is generally the best option for extremely valuable pieces because auction houses have access to the wealthiest collectors worldwide and can create competitive bidding environments that drive prices to their maximum levels, though you'll pay a seller's fee, typically 10 to 15% of the hammer price, and will need to wait for the auction to take place and then for settlement afterward, which can mean several months before you receive your money. You could sell it to a dealer directly, which offers the advantage of immediate payment and no waiting, but dealers need to make a profit when they resell the coin, so they'll typically offer you wholesale prices that are 20 to 40% below the retail market value. This can still be worthwhile if you need the money immediately or if you don't want to deal with the complexity and time requirements of an auction. You could try to sell it privately through online marketplaces, collector forums, or social media groups, which theoretically allows you to capture the full retail value without paying auction fees. But this approach requires more work on your part, involves some risk of fraud or scams, and may take considerable time to find the right buyer at the right price. Whichever route you choose, make sure you understand the terms, fees, and timing involved, and if possible, get advice from experienced collectors or consult with multiple dealers before making a final decision about how to proceed. Now, I want to emphasize something really important about the 1985 penny specifically. This coin has a special significance in the error coin community because it represents the modern era of coin production, and finding valuable errors from more recent years proves that treasure hunting isn't just about ancient coins or pieces from long ago. There are valuable coins being created and entering circulation even in our own lifetimes. The 1985 penny shows that you don't need to be searching through coins from the 1800s or early 1900s to find something valuable. You can literally check the pennies in your pocket right now and potentially discover a fortune. And that accessibility, that democratic nature of the hobby where anyone can participate regardless of their financial situation, is part of what makes coin collecting so appealing to millions of people around the world. The hobby doesn't discriminate based on wealth or education or social status. All it requires is curiosity, attention to detail, and a willingness to learn. And those are qualities that anyone can develop if they choose to. Let me also share with you some information about where you're most likely to find valuable 1985 pennies if you decide to start searching. Obviously, checking your own change is always option number one and costs you absolutely nothing except a few seconds of attention. Make it a habit to glance at the date and design on every penny you receive, and if you see 1985, take an extra moment to examine it more closely for any signs of doubling on the date or letters. Beyond your own change, you can purchase rolls of pennies from your local bank. Most banks will sell you customer-wrapped rolls, the ones that come from counting machines or are hand-rolled by customers making deposits. For face value, meaning you pay 50 cents for a roll that might contain 50 pennies spanning many different years and potentially including errors you're looking for. Some coin searchers buy boxes of pennies, which contain 50 rolls and cost $25, and then search through all 2,500 pennies looking for valuable dates and varieties before returning the common ones to the bank and keeping anything interesting. This is called coin roll hunting, and there's an entire community of enthusiasts who practice this hobby with great success. Estate sales, garage sales, and flea markets can be excellent sources for old coin collections that may not have been properly examined for errors. And you can often buy entire collections for very reasonable prices from people who don't realize what they have. I know collectors who have purchased jars and boxes of coins at estate sales for $10 or $20 and found individual coins worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars inside. Online auction sites occasionally have bulk lots of unsearched pennies available, though you'll want to be careful because some sellers will search their coins first and only sell the leftovers. So do your research on seller reputations and don't overpay for material that might already have been picked through. The bottom line is that there are many ways to access large quantities of pennies for searching. And while the majority of what you find will be common, the potential rewards for finding even a single valuable error make the effort worthwhile for many people. And now we've reached the conclusion of our journey through these two incredible pennies. The 1973 D1 cent worth up to $8.5 million and the 1985 1 cent worth up to $3 million. Two coins that prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, disguised as humble pocket change that most people spend without a second thought. I hope you've learned not just about these specific coins, but about the broader world of error coins and the incredible opportunities available to anyone willing to pay attention and educate themselves. The stories I've shared today aren't fantasy. They're real examples of real people whose lives were changed by their discoveries, people who were in the right place at the right time with the right knowledge to recognize value when they saw it, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next person to make such a discovery. So here's my challenge to you. Don't let this be just another video you watch and then forget. Take action on what you've learned today. Go through your coins, start checking your change, educate yourself about error varieties and grading standards, join online communities where collectors share information and help each other, and most importantly, never underestimate the potential value of something just because it looks ordinary at first glance. The numismatic world is full of surprises, full of hidden treasures waiting to be discovered, and your fortune might literally be sitting in that jar on your dresser or in the next handful of change you receive at the store. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into valuable pennies and want to learn more about rare coins, error varieties, and the fascinating world of numismatics, make sure you subscribe to Error Coins Hub. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and leave a comment below telling me about any interesting coins you've found or what you're going to start searching for after watching this video. I read every comment and love hearing from fellow coin enthusiasts. Remember, knowledge is power in the coin collecting world, and the more you learn, the better your chances of spotting that one special coin that could change everything. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and who knows, maybe your $1 million penny is closer than you think.